Joe has the heroine in a firm grip from behind. With a mock serious tone, he warns her, if she doesn't tell him the secret, he'll let her fall. Face first, teeth smashing, he does not care. Then the story flashes back exactly 6 years. Let's go back. This is CJ. On a normal day, he was dancing and having fun with his friend, but suddenly, without any intention, he hit him in the eye with a stick. This beautiful night turns into a disaster in CJ's life, and he's rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, his eye is injured, and there's no solution other than a corneal transplant. Of course, this is very difficult, but what happens is that the operation is actually performed, and CJ appears after a considerable period, many years, as a famous idol with girls literally fighting over him. God blessed him with enchanting eyes, and he shines like a star in the sky. He's overjoyed because from that day forward, he became the most famous star in all of Korea. He is truly rich, and his performance is incredibly happy with the audience's interaction, which is almost exclusively female. After his concert, the CEO of his sponsoring company, President Joe, comes to congratulate him and informs him that a producer wants to sign with them, one of the most famous producers in Korea. To celebrate this occasion, it's unbelievable, but suddenly he feels the world spinning around him, and he has vivid imaginings of a day when it rained like this, and he hears a certain piece of music. He dreams of a little girl jumping around happily, surrounded by butterflies. Anyway, he wakes up the next day at exactly 5:45, and a new day begins. Joe is very active talking to himself while his manager is outside waiting. Suddenly, he discovers the result of drinking alcohol. Instead of everything being fine, he started jumping around and shoving his company manager, making a fool of him in front of everyone. He's shouting at the top of his lungs and leaves the house to go to the company. On the way, we see a beautiful girl named Kpop also heading to the same company. She trips in the crowd and her necklace, which plays music, falls off. It's the same music that C keeps hearing, and he wants to know where it's coming from, but he can't figure it out. Kpop arrives at the company and meets HR Sheena, who is also Joe's boss's daughter. We discover that Kpop is a songwriter and is there to sell her songs to the company. She's surprised when HR agrees to buy them, but removes her name from the credits. At that moment, an employee interrupts her saying Lashna's father wants to see CJ and his manager, so they're glued to the office window, polishing the doorknob, or maybe trying to overhear anything at all just to fix the mess CJ made. Meanwhile, Kim leaves the company because she does not believe anything Sheena says. Eventually, Sheena herself leaves and advises CJ to disappear completely from the public eye for a while. We learn that CJ hasn't been going to university at all, and we understand this when she tells him, listen, you should go to university. University is great. Study and live your life there. Try being a normal student. Your problem now isn't with the boss. Your problem is with the public. Then we go to Kim's house, where her aunt and cousin are living together, which is a bit of a burden. Her aunt keeps jumping around, telling her, my dear, I took out a loan before for our benefit, and I can't take out another one. And then her daughter, Siha, hits her on the back of the head, so she gets all worked up because she ruined her manicure. By the way, Siha is actually a big fan of CJ, and she really wants to see him. They're backing off and trying to get closer to Boom again. At that moment, Siha sees the news about CJ's apology and that he's going back to his group and will stop singing with his band for a while, so she's very shocked. Then we see CJ on his first day of university, practicing how he'll enter the university and imagining the wind blowing on him, but he's shocked by the harsh reality. He does get a breeze, but it's like a hurricane. The rain is pouring everywhere. At that moment, Kim is standing in the same spot on the other side and remembers the legend that says if two people meet by the wall during the rain, they will be together for life. So she says, that's it, and runs away. She can catch up with anyone, and her chain falls off. The same music starts playing again, and this time CJ follows the sound to find out exactly where it's coming from. He finds Kim standing there and approaches her. She's scared and doesn't know why he's looking at her like that. Suddenly, he takes her hand and asks, is this your song? At the same time, her friend Seotae comes and takes her away. Before she leaves with him, she goes back to CJ and asks him, you know this is my song? But he doesn't get a chance to answer because she leaves again with SEO. The next day, he wakes up at exactly 5:45, or he doesn't know why. Ever since his surgery 6 years ago, he's been waking up at the same time. Meanwhile, Boom is standing with SEO in the morning when her cousin Siha comes out and tells him, don't you dare think I'd ever think about you. My dreams are much bigger than yours. She leaves him and Seobae says, what? Where does this crazy girl get these awful ideas from? Meanwhile, Sihao goes to greet our beloved, CJ, accompanied by a throng of fans. Finally, someone at the college acknowledges his presence, and he wants to ask about Kim, but they interrupt him and ask him to sing. After he sings for a bit, he stops because someone yells at him for singing on campus. Then Sihao sits with him, escorts him to his department, and tries to remind him that at the last concert she was screaming and saying she loved him. He gives her a couple of sweet nothings, and she's practically falling over. She goes to the theater group and tells them, by the way, CJ's here with us, but nobody pays him any attention, as if he's some kind of stair-cleaning janitor. The acting class begins, and the first one to raise his hand to perform is the unfortunate CJ, who brings the humiliation upon himself. He was lacking something, and everyone was laughing at him. To fight back, he treated everyone to lunch at the cafeteria, and then he went to the university director and gave him a facelift, also at the director's expense. The people who had been making fun of him for an hour, like a spot in the theater, came to him asking for financial help because they had problems with the team due to their inability to camp, which was a huge problem, to be honest. So CJ helped them, and to them he was like, wow, what a cool, young, strong guy. Meanwhile, we go to the president, whom CJ humiliated. It's clear that the issue is bigger than just him being under the influence of eyeliner. His daughter keeps asking him what's wrong, but he refuses to answer her. He makes a call and asks the person on the phone to investigate a specific person, but it's not clear who he means. Meanwhile, CJ keeps looking for Kim everywhere until he finally finds out where she works. It's not exactly a job she likes to go to a restaurant and play the piano there. She tries to avoid him, but somehow he ends up standing right in front of her, looking straight into her eyes, and then he starts chasing after her to find out the story behind the tune he keeps hearing from her music. It feels familiar to him, and at one point he even stops her forcefully just to get to the music, grabbing her and making her stumble and fall flat on her face. Still relentless, he continues searching for Kim Bomb until he enters the music room where she is playing and announces that he is joining their team. Kim cannot believe that someone as famous as him is joining their team down in the market. He sits among all the students and later heads to the music room where Kim slips and falls, and he catches her, looks her in the eyes, and asks her what the story behind the tune is if he loses. Kim doesn't know how to answer him, and he himself steps aside, confused, saying, "What's going on? Why does my heart beat so fast every time I see her?" After a while, SEO Bay and CJ enter into a challenge, just as they had agreed. SEO Bay decides to dedicate the performance he's going to do to Kim Bomb, and at that point, CJ gets very annoyed, not even knowing why. Each of them challenges the other, and Sheena stands at a distance watching. SEO's skills are far superior to CJ's, to the point that CJ himself gets fed up and declares SEO the winner. As for the company president Joe, we notice that he sent someone to film Bomb and is shocked to find out they met. He's upset that CJ and Bomb are now in a relationship. It's not clear what his motive is. We learn that CJ deliberately lost to Seoso Bomb could grow up. She explains the story behind the melody to him, and he follows her to the restaurant where she works. He watches her play, captivated by her beauty, and after she finishes, he chases after her. But she scolds him and tells him to get out of her way because you're starting to scare me. At night, CJ goes to sleep and remembers the time he had a fight with his boss. It's clear the boss is accusing him of something we don't know about. He wakes up to find him there, and just as he's about to be happy, he's shocked when the boss tells him, "You have two choices, either enlist in the army or leave the country." CJ objects, saying, "I haven't forgotten what happened 6 years ago." As soon as the boss hears this, he gets angry and says, "So you remember everything." Before CJ can explain what he means, the boss refuses to listen and leaves, threatening CJ that if he does not obey, he will have only himself to blame. Joe then begins to carry out his threat by sending two young men to bully CJ, and no matter how much CJ tries to avoid them, they frame him and pretend that he is the one who set them up. They record the whole incident, and a lawsuit is filed against him. To escape this situation, CJ announces that he is completely leaving the group and goes to rent an apartment. When he arrives at the place, he says, "What is this? I know it. I feel like I have lived here before." As the sun rises and he checks the apartment, he sees Bomb's aunt. He looks at her and accuses her of fraud because she said it was an apartment, not a rooftop place. In her arrogance, she asks him, "What do you want me to do? I have to bring in customers." He is disguised, so she does not recognize him, but as soon as he sees Bomb, he cannot believe his eyes and reveals his identity, leaving her standing there in shock. Then the story goes back to the time she saw him at university when he asked her about the melody, and we learn that she left Seo halfway and went back to look for CJ, realizing that he is the love of her life and not just a famous idol. When she comes out of her thoughts, Sehao also comes to her mind, and she is shocked to see CJ again. Unable to believe it, she says, "What? This is CJ. Is he really asking for this, or am I still asleep?" She becomes so happy that she faints, then wakes up on the couch and convinces her mother to let CJ live with them in the apartment. The heroine was hesitant about accepting the hero, but her aunt bribed her emotionally, making her eyes fill with tears. She said that once the hero became famous again, they could sell everything in the house he lived in for millions. The silly girl began imagining that this was the beginning of her love story with the hero, that one day he would propose to her on the rooftop, they would get married, and she would live life to the fullest. Eventually, they brought the hero into the house and told him, "Look, we have conditions. You will get breakfast at 7 a.m., and after 7 a.m., you will have to pay extra." The hero woke up at 6 a.m., so the extra charge made no sense to him. He shocked them by giving them 5 million, and he was genuinely happy to see them happy. He then went into the room and found a picture of Boom from her childhood and said, "Wow, that's the same smile." He also noticed the same piano she used to play at the restaurant and realized it belonged to her family, so he went and sat near it. Later, while she was walking, he suddenly scared her, causing her to almost fall. He caught her in midair and teasingly took advantage of the situation, saying, "Are you going to tell me the song, or should I let you fall to the ground?" The heroine told him that it was the first song she had ever written for her mother. When she found out that the hero had heard it in his dream, she was shocked and surprised to hear him talk about it. The hero then went to sleep and had the same dream again, but this time he clearly saw the child playing the piano. He realized it was the heroine as a child because he had already seen her picture in the house. The next day he went to the heroine, played the piano for her, and described the shape and color of the piano he had seen in his dream, which exactly matched the piano she played at the restaurant. She could not believe how he knew all this, but she encouraged him, telling him not to let people falsely accuse him of being an aggressor and that he needed to defend himself. Encouraged by the heroine's confidence, the hero went to the university to meet the band he wanted to form. There, he sees the 2 men who once framed him and caused all his troubles, and amazingly, the one who supposedly had a broken leg is now walking, limping on the other leg. Suddenly, they abandon him and run away, zigzagging left and right like Jerry from a cartoon, until he manages to catch both of them. They then go to the press and report that this time he really assaulted them, and after that, they escape. They call Joe's assistant and inform him that CJ is at the university. When Joe sees the picture of CJ with Bomb, his assistant quickly separates them. It becomes clear that something big is happening that CJ himself does not yet know. At the same time, we see a protest by university students demanding that CJ leave and stop all activities because they believe he is arrogant and has hurt many people. Bomb is deeply upset, especially when the university authorities try to convince CJ to drop out, travel abroad, or join the army. She goes to Joe to ask why he is doing this, and although it is not obvious that she knows him, he clearly knows her very well. When she realizes there is no point in staying, she decides to take matters into her own hands. She dresses up as a teddy bear and sings among the students, getting CJ to help her play. Everyone loves their interaction, and the mood becomes joyful and energetic. As soon as they finish, they all agree to form a band under CJ's name. SEO Bay stands nearby, clearly annoyed by what is happening. Bomb then offers to become CJ's manager from that moment on, and they all run around happily, enjoying the sweetness of new beginnings. The university feels like a Coldplay concert hall, full of constant singing and dancing, and honestly, it makes one wish there were someone like this at our own university. On the other hand, we see the same bully boys approaching Seo and provoking him by saying that people have started signing up for CJ and that they are not going to stop, after which they move forward to protest again. It is almost 6 o'clock and they have collected 299 signups, needing just one more. At that moment, Seobae comes forward and signs it himself, which greatly surprises CJ. As we soon understand, Seobae probably did all of this for Kim Bomb. As soon as Seobae signs, the bullies become very angry with him, but Seobae firmly says that he is not going to put up with people like them, and then explains how those 2 men never suffered any injuries and were lying only for money. The truth about them is revealed in front of everyone. CJ extends his hand to shake Seobae's hand, but Seobae ignores him, walks past, and looks toward Kim Bomb instead. Then the principal himself arrives, and Saga hands him the list with 300 signups. The principal is confused about how CJ managed to achieve this, and finally, CJ's band receives official approval. They go out to celebrate together, and CJ pretends to be the head chef of Sharkawi's Liver and Brains restaurant, dramatically showing off his way of grilling meat as if he is carefully seasoning it, even though he ends up making a complete mess of it. He jokingly says, "Oh God, give this beast the patience of a donkey so that I don't have to eat this with burning coals right now, because I'm relying on someone who clearly cannot be relied on." Boom then says, "What's this? There are still some good pieces left," and like a group of hyenas, they all pounce on the food. In the chaos, CJ's hand moves toward Kim, while Sehao's hand moves toward CJ. Seeing this, Sehao gets very angry, pushes CJ's face into the cake and says, "Congratulations!" Soon everyone starts throwing cake at each other and having a lot of fun, but after some time, they also have to clean up the mess. Just then, CJ's man calls him and tells him that the KCAM agency has come and spoken to the director. Here he notices someone watching them and trying to follow Kim, but he is unable to catch the person. Meanwhile, Seobei goes home and finds his famous surgeon father slapping him and shouting, "Don't you dare think I don't know what you're doing. You're abandoning your studies and following CJ, whose scandal is everywhere, and all for what? For the sake of that orphan girl Bomb, and you're even breaking up with the neighbor you love." After this, Seobei leaves the house and shouts in the street that he is finally free. He then goes straight to Kim's house and says that CJ told him she did not feel comfortable being alone there, which is why he has come to live with him. Apparently, the place is like a shelter for people who cannot find somewhere to stay. And of course, the aunt agrees because it means easy money for her. Even Kim is happy because she is getting paid for the place. She takes money from Seo and he ends up sleeping in the same room as CJ, where they make a bet about who will pay the rent, with both insisting, "I'll pay the rent." At the same time, Joe is dreaming about the accident he had some time ago and wakes up at the same time as CJ. After a few hours, we see CJ, Bomb, and the rest of the group going to a new studio, only to discover that it is in complete chaos. This is Bomb's private space, like a studio, and they want to turn it into their headquarters. All the important members of the group leave, except for CJ and Bomb, and honestly, the two of them work tirelessly, cleaning and tidying up the place. In the middle of all this chaos, a romantic moment happens when Bomb is about to fall, and CJ immediately catches her. They look into each other's eyes, and it becomes clear that CJ has remembered something again, making it feel as though Bomb is hiding something very important. Later, Bomb goes to her job and finds out that the restaurant manager has sold the piano, which makes her sad as she tells him that she comes there only to play it and does not care about the money. When she returns home, she discovers that CJ bought the piano after realizing it belonged to her mother when he saw her childhood picture. While they are talking, CJ notices someone watching him and runs after the person, only to discover that it is the boss's assistant. He then goes to Joe and asks him why he is doing this to him and why he has changed and turned against him. They end up drinking and making a bet that whoever loses must fulfill the other's request. But CJ loses and his request is never carried out, leaving him confused about Joe's intentions. CJ apologizes to Joe, saying he holds no resentment toward him, and walks away, while Joe remains sitting there, confused, wondering whether CJ truly remembers anything or not. On his way home, CJ is overwhelmed by strange memories from his past that he does not fully understand. He returns home late, and Bomb, who is worried after seeing an owl in the street, notices him. CJ calls her by a pet name that only her mother used to know and hugs her emotionally. When Seobei sees this, he becomes angry, walks up to CJ, and pulls him away from Bomb. CJ was so drunk that he fell asleep with his head resting on Seobei's shoulder. Seeing this, Seobei muttered that CJ must be pretending, and then asked Kim Bomb if she was okay. He took CJ inside and poured water on him, but even then, CJ did not wake up. Meanwhile, Bomb stayed in her room, standing in front of the mirror and thinking about everything that had happened, especially how CJ knew her nickname, the one no one else knew. The next day, CJ finally woke up and said to Seobei, "Didn't I tell you to get treatment for your snoring? It's unbelievable. A grown man like you, whose father is a surgeon, can't even get treatment for his breathing problems." Seobei stood there in disbelief at the nonsense he was hearing and replied, "Are you even human? You made a complete mess of everything yesterday." They are all having breakfast, and CJ behaves as if he knows everything, even advising the aunt on how to cook the beans properly because the ones she made tasted more like lentils. After breakfast, Seobei comes and accuses CJ of remembering everything but pretending to be naive. When CJ tries to avoid the conversation, Seobei follows him and confronts him, saying that he knows CJ loves Bomb, but that love does not work this way. He tells him that Bomb should be allowed to choose for herself, and that if CJ were truly observant, he would notice her feelings without without forcing anything. He reminds CJ that he is a famous star and that his words and actions carry weight. After some time, they get ready to go to university, and Seobei leaves alone. Seiha asks him about CJ, and he replies sarcastically, asking whether she really thinks he cares or that he would go looking for his nephew. Seiha breaks down and accuses Seobei and Bomb of being heartless for not worrying about CJ, unaware that CJ is standing nearby and hearing everything. CJ then notices the assistant who has been keeping an eye on Kim Bomb and manages to reach Joe, asking him why he is doing all this. He is shocked when Joe tells him that everything happening is for Bomb's benefit and that CJ must stay away from her, otherwise it will not be good for her. Later, CJ goes to the university and secretly follows Kim to her class. During the lecture, the teacher asks about him, and CJ says he has come at Kim Bomb's request and praises the teacher's lectures, but he ends up sleeping through the entire class while the teacher simply smiles. As soon as Kim comes out, CJ also appears, and Kim asks him sarcastically if he plans to follow her into the bathroom as well. Hearing this, he replies that she can go there and pretends to receive a phone call. While he is talking, Kim Bomb quietly runs away, and when he looks back, she is no longer there. Then we see Kim Bomb standing as dry leaves begin to rain down on her, making her very happy, and it is revealed that Seobei is behind this gesture. Kim Bomb starts smiling, and Seobei says that 6 years ago was the first time he ever saw Kim Bomb smile. Meanwhile, Joe visits Seobei's father in great distress and tells the doctor that he has been having nightmares. He then asks if he remembers the accident that happened 6 years ago, and we are shown a flashback revealing that they were involved in an accident. As the story unfolds, Seo's father tells Joe about the day of the accident, taking us further back in time to see Joe driving while completely distracted. He asks Joe, and Joe tells him that the witness was CJ, which shocks the doctor deeply. He then informs Joe that Seobei is also living with the same girl, and when the doctor sees her photo, he is stunned and says that she is Kim Bomb, realizing that the woman who died that day was Kim Bomb's mother. Fearing that if the truth comes out, the police will arrest him, the doctor reassures Joe by explaining that the case has already been closed and nothing like that can happen now, though his terrified expression clearly shows how scared he is. On the other hand, we see CJ meeting his friends and telling them that they are now going to perform and must practice, confidently considering himself the leader, which angers Seobei even more, and he snaps back asking who told him he could be the leader, causing a fight to break out between the two. Bomb tries to stop both of them by shouting loudly, but neither of them listens and they continue fighting like children. In the next scene, we see Kim Bomb at home, busy with her work, when she hears the sound of them fighting again and shouts at them to keep quiet. The next day, everyone is told to arrive on time, and a producer comes to pick them up in a van, which makes Sehao very happy. CJ does the driving and drives quite recklessly, causing Seobei to interrupt him repeatedly. When they reach their destination, CJ notices Bomb working hard, takes the box from her, and hands it directly to Seobei, which makes Seobei angry, though he says nothing. While Seobei continues working, CJ keeps following Kim Bomb around. At one point, Kim Bomb lies down to rest, and as sunlight falls on her face, CJ gently places his hand between the sunlight and her face, looking at her lovingly. Seeing this, Seobei becomes furious and throws a table down, the loud noise waking Kim Bomb. When she looks up, CJ starts doing push-ups and then runs after Seobei to catch him. Seobei stops and tells CJ that he can never be a leader and should call him senior from now on. CJ replies that he will never respect someone from whom he has learned nothing. Seobei brings up Kim Bomb again, and CJ asks why he is changing the topic, which leads them to start fighting once more. Kim Bomb comes to stop them, but she accidentally falls into the water, shocking both of them, and they immediately jump in to save her. CJ comes out of the water with her, but is unable to lift her. So seeing this, Seobei picks Kim Bomb up in his arms while CJ struggles to climb out of the water. As CJ comes out, his foot slips, his head hits a stone, and he starts remembering something before the scene cuts. Jingu arrives and helps CJ, and CJ then sees Seobei about to give Kim Bomb mouth-to-mouth CPR. Losing his senses, CJ rushes towards Seobei, grabs him, and throws him down to stop him, but at that moment, Kim Bomb wakes up on her own. In the next scene, Kim Bomb is unwell, and both CJ and Seobei apologize to her, promising that from now on they will do whatever she says and will never fight again, to which Kim Bomb confidently replies that she is sure they will listen. Hearing this, both agree, and Bomb announces that the first guitar will be played by CJ, while the song will be chosen by Seobei. Seobei then asks who the leader of the band will be, and Kim Bom declares that she herself will be the leader because she does not trust either of them, leaving both of them shocked. Just then, Sehao arrives with many medicines, worriedly asking Kim Bom if she is okay, and saying that she was terrified when she heard Kim had drowned, which is why she bought all the medicines. She then innocently asks how Kim Bom could drown when she is such a good swimmer, and upon hearing this, Kim Bom quickly covers her mouth, realizing her mistake as both CJ and Seobei understand that she had been lying and start chasing after her. The scene then shifts to nighttime, where the producer is inside the van and notices Kim Bom's bag, takes out her notebook, and while looking at the song written in it, wonders why she has not sold it yet. Suddenly, hearing footsteps, she quickly puts the book back into the bag. Meanwhile, we see the aunt trying to check the bags of both main leads, but the doorbell rings and she becomes nervous. When she opens the door, she finds Seobei's father standing there, which shocks and pleases her, and the doctor explains that he has come to collect Seobei's books. After that, the doctor also starts asking about Kim Bom's mother, and the aunt tells him how her mother died in an accident, after which the doctor takes Kim Bom's phone number. On the other hand, we see Joe meeting with the university director, where he offers a large amount of money in exchange for a favor, saying that he wants Kim Bom to be given a scholarship, which greatly surprises the director, though he eventually agrees. In the next scene, the doctor calls Kim Bom to meet him, and she goes to see him and greets him, after which he directly tells her that Seobei is staying at her house without permission, and has even skipped his classes, and that he now wants him to return home. Kim Bom is very shocked to hear all this, and afterwards she texts Taeyang and invites him to meet her. Seobei becomes very happy when he sees her message and immediately goes to meet her, where Bom tells him that his father called her to meet him and wants him to come back home, but Seobei clearly says that he is not going back, while Bom firmly tells him that he has to go. Now Seobei cannot deny it anymore. As soon as Kim Bom comes home, CJ starts questioning her about where she was, who she was with, and where Seobei is now, but she ignores him and goes straight to her room without answering. When Seobei returns home, his father is very happy to see him and tells him to stay away from Kim Bom and focus on his studies, even asking him to join him at his surgery, though from his expression it is clear that Seobei is not happy at all. Next, the director calls Kim Bom and informs her about a scholarship that would allow her to study abroad, but she bluntly refuses, saying she wants to stay here and practice with her band. Meanwhile, Seobei is shown in the hospital where his father is performing an operation and asks him to assist, but Seobei suddenly remembers something, panics, and runs away, after which his father comes out angrily, kicks him, and starts speaking badly about his mother. Seobei tells him not to say anything about his mother, but his father continues, forcing him to become a doctor, which leaves Seobei extremely frustrated, and he is about to harm his own hand, knowing how important hands are for a doctor, when CJ arrives and stops him, asking how he can hurt himself, and then telling him to mind his own business, before threatening him by saying that he saw him with Kim Bom and does not want to see him with her again, and finally reminding him that his hands are very important for doctors before leaving. CJ tells Taeyang not to worry about Kim Bom, assuring him that he will always be with her and protect her, while also telling Taeyang to do whatever he wants, warning that otherwise it will be his loss. Seobei understands this, and the next day we see everyone practicing very hard in the studio, with only a little time left before the festival. One day, Kim Bom falls asleep and CJ comes to her, explaining that the studio door has been locked from the outside, so they cannot go home, which makes Kim Bom very scared. CJ then asks if he should apologize for that day, and Kim Bom responds that she knows he remembers the hug and that he was just pretending to be drunk. CJ admits that he hugged her because he likes her and asks why she didn't push him away, suggesting maybe she doesn't dislike him either. Suddenly, the lights go off and Kim Bom hugs him in fear. The remaining story will be covered in the next part. What will happen next? Stay with us to find out. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, like, and comment. See you in the next video. Until then, stay safe and goodbye.